to be here to speak with all of you today about one of my absolute favorite topics. So first, let me introduce all of you to who I am. I believe you can see my screen. As Dr. Perez said, welcome to Yappy Hour. Today, we're going to be talking about the benefits of animal bond during COVID-19, this pandemic that we are all currently living in. I hope that all of you are safe and healthy as you join me today and everyone else that is here. I hope that you have your furry, fuzzy, scaly, or even if it's a memory of your friends nearby for company. My name is Dr. Ariann Robino, and I am an assistant professor at Nova Southeastern University who is putting this on for all of us today. I work in the clinical mental health counseling program housed within the College of Psychology. One of my specialties is in animal-assisted interventions. I'm actually a licensed professional counselor, and I specialize in the human-animal bond. So as I said, I'm particularly excited to talk about this with you today. If you have any questions as we go through, please type them into the chat feature. At the end, I'll go through the questions and we'll get to them then, okay? So as we get started, I would like to show a series of images. Now I'm going to show you another series of images. What I just did with you was share with you some images that are difficult to see. And then I shared with you images of animals. This was a very watered down, small version of an animal-assisted intervention, meaning an animal was incorporated into this conversation to assist you in the stress that you experienced from those images. I don't think it's a stretch to say that we're all feeling stress right now. This is applicable to the current state of our world. One thing to know about these animal-assisted interventions is that there are many types, and you're probably familiar with some of them. You've likely seen or heard of therapy animals going into different settings such as college campuses, libraries, retirement homes. If you're familiar with these types of interventions, these are called animal-assisted activities. What's important to know about these interventions is that they're usually not facilitated by a therapist, although they can be, but it's a volunteer that has very special training in the human-animal bond, which we're going to talk a little more about in just a minute. When an animal is incorporated into counseling, which is what you've likely heard of as called animal-assisted therapy, this is done by a mental health practitioner that specializes in the human-animal bond as well, but this is more of a professional setting versus that kind of casual activity that you saw in the other slides. This is where my research and my clinical work lies, in the human-animal bond of animal-assisted interventions. Again, we'll circle back to the human-animal bond in a moment, but before I do, I want to make sure that we all have a common language for the different types of helper animals. I said therapy animals earlier, right? I really like talking to people about this because there are so many different animals that you've heard of: therapy animals, service animals, emotional support animals. Images like this help break down what these different types of animals are, because all of these animals do a very important job, which is help humans, right? So first we have therapy animals, which is the middle right here. And that's mainly what we're talking about right now in this conversation. So therapy animals are what you will have seen on those college campuses, those libraries, those retirement homes. And these belong to one individual who is trained in incorporating that animal into a beneficial experience that benefits many other individuals, not just that person. Again, that's what you saw in the other slides. We're therapy animals. These are different from service animals. Service animals are trained to assist one person to accomplish a specific task related to a disability. That disability can be very broad. It could be something like alerting a drop in blood sugar for someone with diabetes, for example, or to warn someone if they have a panic attack coming on, if they have a diagnosis relevant to that. And these animals are legally authorized to receive access to public settings. Now, going back to the emotional support animals, which you've probably heard about in, primarily on the news in regards to the airlines, but there's been great debate about emotional support animals and a little bit of confusion about how they're similar and different to service animals, therapy animals. That's a conversation for another webinar. I'm not going to get into all of that today, but what I want you to note about emotional support animals is that they don't receive task-specific training like service animals, so they're not given legal access to public settings. However, what they are companion animals that assist individuals with mental health concerns simply through providing their companionship. So this might not be a term that you've heard before because we usually call them our pets, right? I call them our companion animals. Again, what you know as your pet, or if you're like me and have more than you probably need, pets, these are the creature or creatures with whom you share your days, your finances, times your bed. So there's a great deal of research for relationship with animals overall. And provided you 4 classifications of animals, right? Some of which there are clear distinctions, some of which there's overlap. Researchers have done some fascinating work in looking at how we have different relationships with animals depending on what the context of that relationship occurs in. We have research looking at our relationships with zoo animals and how that's different than our relationship with other types of animals, shelter animals. There's a broad body of literature. It's one of my favorite things to do is to look through that literature. Let's go ahead and stick with that idea of the relationship, of the bond. We're going back to the human-animal bond now. The American Veterinary Medical Association defines the human-animal bond as a mutually beneficial and dynamic relationship between people and animals that is influenced by behaviors essential to the health and well-being of both. I'm going to give you a second because I want you to look at the key words in this definition. As you look at these words, think about your relationship with your own companion animals, AKA your pets. So take a minute, look at this definition, and then I'll help you pull out a few of these. So the first ones that I'm hoping are jumping out are this idea of mutually beneficial, meaning yes, we benefit as the humans. However, the animal is also benefiting from the exchange. I'm going to circle back to a continuous theme today of animal welfare and how, especially in COVID-19, we have to think about animal welfare because our animals are around us a lot right now. And so how does that shift who they are? So thinking about the human-animal bond, we want to make sure that the animal is also benefiting from it. The relationship is dynamic. It's an active relationship. Both individuals are engaged in that relationship, and it contributes to the essential health and well-being of both. Again, this goes back to that mutual idea. Everyone involved is benefiting. Now, human-animal relationship enthusiasts like myself really enjoy learning of the theories that underlie the human-animal bond. And I'm going to share some of those theories with you, and I'm going to narrow in on one specifically. But as I'm talking about these theories, again, think about your relationship with animals and how, if any of this resonates with you. The first is the biophilia hypothesis, which I just love so much because it's the idea that humans are connected to nature, and how we're connected to nature is innate. It's adaptive. It's evolutionary. We need to be connected to nature. We look to nature, like if we look to the elements for shelter from a storm, for food, for sustenance, for oxygen, for breath. We've been doing this since the beginning of time. Animals are a component of that nature. And so we look to them for many needs. We'll go into some of those needs in just a little bit. Or perhaps, theorists also say, our bond with animals could be related to social support. This idea that animals fall within a very intricate network of social connectedness and support. We have that through friends, family, colleagues, and neighbors, right? We have a bunch of people in our lives that we would consider social support. If we buy into the social support, with animals theory, then we buy into this idea that animals are a social support as well. And I will say, you'd be surprised, when I worked with college students specifically, you'd be surprised how many college students will say that their animals, that's who they miss the most when they leave for college, when they leave home, is they miss their animals more than they miss their families sometimes, because they consider that animal part of their social support. However, the theory I'm going to focus on the most today, and what I tend to circle back to the most when it comes to the human-animal bond, is attachment theory. Many of you might have heard of attachment. Attachment comes from Bowlby, and it originated from this idea that individuals are motivated to connect. We're motivated to remain close to an attachment figure. Now, this first came from the idea that who we attach to is a caregiver, more specifically mothers. So the way an individual attaches to their caregiver influences the relationships that they have throughout their entire lives, including their romantic relationships, their friendships. In essence, attachment determines how much an individual knows that they are cared for, that their needs will be met, and that the attachment figure will provide for them. Now, I talked about this, about how it originated from this idea of caregivers and mothers and infants and children. However, there's now another large body of research that shows that attachment extends beyond that child caregiver dyad. And we know that people can experience attachment to many entities. There's research looking at individuals' attachment to God, to inanimate objects, to locations, to mental health professionals like myself, and to animals. All right, so in our relationship with our companion animals, we see many signs of attachment behaviors and patterns. A word that some of y'all might have heard is anthropomorphizing. You'll hear, if in this field, we talk a lot about how people tend to anthropomorphize our pets. We attribute human-like emotions to them. We treat them as humans within their household roles. How do we do this? We do this by throwing them birthday parties. We do this by sharing the bed with them. We call them a member of our family. We spend millions of dollars on food, medicine, veterinary care, grooming, boarding, accessories, bags to put the smaller ones in, whatever. Our attachment to our pets is so known that we have many instruments and assessments used to measure that degree of attachment, some of which are linked to things like how much money do you spend? Do you sleep with your pet? Now, attachment is a two-way street. So first, think about your attachment to your own companion animal or animals if you have a few of them. And those attachments might look different depending on the particular animal. Just like you have different relationships with people, you might have different relationships with your animals if you have more than one. So think about whether you consider your relationship to your pet as something stable, rooted in trust. By attending this webinar, my guess is you likely do have some degree of attachment to your therapy animal. We'll go into the why of that in just a moment. But also think about the attachment your pet has to you and the other people in your household. This is associated with caregiving, nurturance, and the responsibility that comes with companion animal ownership, which closely mirrors a parent-caregiver relationship, which again is a relationship that satisfies an evolutionary need to maintain a bond rooted in care, reassurance, and protection. We often think of what our animals do for us in the relationship, but what about what we can do for them? How do we demonstrate protection and care so that they attach to us in a healthy manner? An example for you. I was in my backyard the other day. One of my dogs tends to startle more easily than the other. A loud noise came from the street. He heard the noise and ran straight to me to protect him. I looked at my husband and I said, he's attached to me. That's what that means. That is a sign of a healthy and strong attachment. He knew that I would protect him from whatever it was that made that noise. And he ran straight to me. That's through years of nurturing the relationship that we have. So going back to us, because as you can see, we're doing a little bit of back and forth here. We're talking about our animals and what they get, and we're talking about us and what we get. So what does having this strong relationship with our pets do for us? Well, it does many things, especially on a physiological level. Some of you may have heard of the hormone oxytocin. Oxytocin is released during critical relational moments of life, such as during sex, during childbirth, anytime when we need to be able to connect to someone else. There's research that also shows that oxytocin is released when we look at or interact with animals. And this happens on both ends. We release oxytocin, thereby enhancing our connection to the animal, and the animal also releases oxytocin, thereby their connection. Interacting with animals also reduces blood pressure, it lowers our heart rates. We have lots of benefits physiologically in that way. And we also have benefits psychologically. Reduce loneliness, reduce stress, increased happiness, increased self-esteem, increased companionship. Just this morning, I saw an article get shared on one of my human-animal interaction networks talking about what animals are doing during COVID-19. And I said, oh, this relates to what I'm talking about today. And it talks about how animals are reducing stress for their owners during this very stressful time. They're providing them company during a time company is hard to come by. We can experience an improvement in depression and anxiety if we have symptoms of that. We also benefit physically through increased exercise when we take our pets on walks, right? There's a lot of research that talks about how people that take their pets on walks tend to do better physically than those who do not. The benefits we experience from our companion animals are multidimensional. Again, we want to pay attention to how the animal benefits also, and I'll continuously circle back to that notion. Because the human-animal bond dictates that this is a symbiotic relationship, right? By making your companion animal's welfare a priority, you are promoting their healthy attachment to you as well. All right, so let's put this back into the COVID-19 framework. What does our relationship with our companion animals have to do with the current pandemic? And how has COVID-19 turned our lives, and how COVID-19 has turned our lives upside down? How have animals fit in with that? Well, that's yet to be determined. I wish I could tell you that I have some definitive answers about that, but I've been seeing a number of active research studies that have come out studying this very idea. How has the human-animal relationship changed in the face of COVID-19? Many of my colleagues are conducting these types of studies. It's too early to have any data. So nothing is definitive, and I'm gonna surmise a few things based on the research, prior research, based on anecdotal experiences, based on some of what I read online this morning as well. Like I said, things are constantly coming out every day. So one of them is that the human-animal bond is shifting, right? In most unusual cases, our companion animals are a fixture in our lives that we see before we head to work for the day, before we go off to a social event that we have, usually with other humans, right? Or before we enjoy a hobby. That is, unless you're like me and you make your work, social life, and hobbies around animals. And then they're not necessarily a fixture, they're a daily process. But otherwise, animals are a fixture, but they're in the peripheral. We're off doing some of the other things we need to do. And again, stable attachment, right? We know that our animals are going to be there when we get home. Now, because we are isolated from our human connections, our companion animals are being asked to be more for us than they were before. They are one of the few sources of connection that we now have. If someone lives alone, for example, this becomes even more critical because humans are naturally social beings that require connection to others. That is also evolutionary. That is also innate. Or say one of you could be an essential worker. Maybe after you come home from work, you might need time away from human family members because you've been an essential worker dealing with some of the human component of this chaos all day. Perhaps you find peace and comfort in that companion animal. Or perhaps you don't. Perhaps you're an essential worker, and after caring for others all day, you come home and have to care for one more thing, your companion animal. The bond is shifting, and we want to acknowledge that it's two-sided. It can be healing, and it can be an additional component of what's already happening, right? It can be that additional stressor. It's a responsibility to have an animal. However, if you have that securely attached relationship, it increases the likelihood that this stressor is going to be worth it to the human. They're going to fight for it, right? So during this time, this bond that's already been important, evolution tells us that, research tells us that, it's become even more important. Again, we want to make sure that we recognize the limits of our pets though. Remember, they are not humans, so our expectations of them need to be species appropriate. If we're asking pets to do particular things, as we're home all day, we need to remember that they are not the same species as us. And I'll dive into that a little bit as well in a minute. Something else that's happening is that shelters are clearing, more people are fostering, which is awesome news. I'm pretty sure the closest one that I saw this for sure happening, I believe, was in West Palm Beach, somewhere up north. I know that a shelter cleared, I think last week. So this is important. People are finding themselves home more. Their travels were canceled. They're not going anywhere. They're not doing anything. So this is a time for them that they're thinking, okay, time for me to step up. I'm going to adopt and foster a new friend. By being required to stay home, society has created more space for us. It's created more access and more resources for reducing the number of homeless animals. If you're one of the people that stepped up during this time, thank you so much. We need people like you. Also, be planning for when life resumes to normal and how your circumstances can sustain your newly acquired family member. I'm mentioning this because in case anyone in this, we have over 100 people here right now, and it's important to consider what life's going to be like when we return to normal, whenever that is, right? And whatever that looks like. Pets are going to likely be confused when we do that. They're so used to us being home right now we return to the hustle and bustle of everyday life and you aren't home as often, they might notice. So you want to continue preparing them for such a transition. Give them their own space to relax and nap away from you, their own bed, their own kennel, or whatever they need while you're working remotely, while you're in school remotely. Make sure your pet has a space that they can be differentiated from you to a degree. Make that space inviting and cozy for them. Also, leave the house occasionally. I mean, I don't know if I'll get in trouble for saying that, but even if you're taking a walk down the street with your mask on, being as safe as you can be, give your pet a chance to remember what it's like to have you in another space, because right now you're not, and it could confuse them. Give them toys and games to occupy their time. Whenever you go to the grocery store, that's a good time for them to kind of experience that again. But again, make sure your companion animal is prepared. So what I'm saying this also, and that's going to feed into my next point about how COVID-19 is influencing our relationship. Some people are surrendering their companion animals because some people are unemployed now. Some people no longer have the resources to care for their companion animals like they could. If you have your own capabilities to support your community in this way, you can donate food and money to local rescues or shelters. They're providing food and free services to people during this time to try to help avoid surrenders. On a personal note, I've donated pet food to neighbors who've posted in the Nextdoor app saying, I lost my job, I need food for my dog, can anyone help? It's the same idea, it accomplishes the same goal. Again, I'm saying this because if you are one of the people that might need extra support, please reach out to individuals within your community. And if you don't know where that is, please contact me. I didn't mention it on the first slide, but my email address is up there and I'll make sure that we mention it again. But please contact me. I'm happy to help point you in a direction of where you can obtain those types of resources. Also to clear up other confusion, because this, I think people are starting to hear this, but initially people were surrendering animals because they thought they could transmit COVID-19 to us. But I just read something that I believe was released yesterday or the day before saying at this time, we have no information to believe that our animals can transfer COVID-19 to us. There was a lot of confusion and misinformation going around, there still is. But I just want to make sure that I put that out there, that that's what I'm hearing from a lot of the people in my circles. In that same spirit though, we also don't know if we can transmit to our pets. So if any of you have tested positive, I'd be advised to limit the contact, wear a face mask when you're caring for them. And again, I'm mentioning this because the American Veterinary Medical Association came out with this information. And I have a bunch of resources that I can provide you from the Institute for Human-Animal Connection as well. So again, I'm mentioning this, if you are one of those people that needs just a little extra help when it comes to your companion animals, reach out. I'd be happy to get you some resources and get you some information. All right, so back to some of the more exciting stuff as far as the benefits. More time home means we're having more bonding benefits. Again, we're finding ourselves home more. So we can maximize on some of what I said earlier, some of that stuff that naturally comes with the human-animal bond. On the days when anxiety, sadness, fear, confusion, concern, when it feels heavy, time with your companion animals can allow some of those physiological and psychological benefits that I referenced earlier to occur. On those days when you feel your four walls coming around you and you feel trapped, taking your pet for a walk or spending time with them outside can help you break free for a time. More time home means more time to nurture that attachment that I talked about earlier that you have with your animals. As I said a few times before, be sure to monitor your pet for how much extra time they can handle. We all have this idea, myself included oftentimes, that our pets are infallible and they can handle anything we throw at them, including all of our attention and all of our focus. But sometimes our pets have bad days. Sometimes they need to recharge too. So be sure to grant that to them. Even though you find yourself home more, think of them as a roommate that might need a little bit of space as well. And one other thing, and I think my image on the slide comes to the good point of this. Our final anecdote here is going to help lead us into the next part of this webinar, which is going to be the Companion Animal Showcase. Those now working remotely or attending school remotely are finding themselves meeting pets through Zoom, pets that they never would have met otherwise, right? And they're introducing others to their pets that they never would have introduced otherwise. Now we're able to bring our pets to work or to class. Many of you might be laying in bed on your laptops or on your phones watching this webinar, and your pet is right next to you, or pets. Normally, if I was doing this talk, I might be on campus. I might be at NSU, and then you would not be there with your pet. So things are shifting, right? Our pets are now in technology with us. I've seen videos of pets helping meteorologists. So meteorologists are now doing their work on the news from home. And I saw one where the meteorologist's cat is now a staple for his airings. When we first transitioned online, I asked all of my students to introduce our new classmates that might be nearby. And so everyone loved grabbing their pets. Almost all students had a dog or cat that was snoozing at their feet or on their lap. And so showing those pets on Zoom was a great way to bring some light and normalcy to this abnormal situation. With that, we are going to move to the companion animal showcase portion of our evening. I wish we had time to meet everyone's pets. Truthfully, your pets are likely more important than any of the words that I've said today, but we'll only have time for a few of them. And so I'm gonna start with mine, and then we have a few others that we'll have a chance to meet. I have 3 pets. I'm gonna grab 2 of them. I'm not sure my cat is quite in the mood to come to the screen right now, but bear with me. I'm gonna go grab one of my dogs so we can start there. All right. So this is my firstborn. This is Joseph, AKA Jojo, AKA Joe, or whatever other version of Joe that we can create. Joe here is, I believe, 12 years old. He is a Chihuahua, as you can see, and I rescued him from the shelter many years ago when I was in college. Yeah, he's my firstborn. I am gonna go grab my other dog, my secondborn. He came right to me, so come here. All right, this is Antonio. He is 10 years old, I think, almost 11. Hello. He is a dachshund. Well, he's mostly dachshund, but we found out recently that he is actually Chiweenie. So that is a new fun fact about Antonio. I know, I also got him when I was in college as well. So these 2 men have been with me through quite a bit, and they are enjoying my extra time at home. They still spend it doing mostly sleeping. The cat might be willing to come. I will, in case anyone here is a cat lover, I don't think this might be the only cat. I don't think anyone else has a cat to show, but I will grab my cat in case anyone's interested in cats. All right. So this is Oscar. He is the youngest. He's about 5, and he was rescued from a dumpster behind a Target in Houston. So he's our little street cat that turned into basically a couch cat at this point. He just mostly lounges. All right, I know. All right, so those are the animals that I spend my days with, and I'm looking forward to seeing some of your animals that you spend your days with. All right, so I know Carlos and Erica spoke to a few people. We talked to them before this, so I'm gonna go ahead and call on some people, and then what we'll do is I'll answer questions after that if there are any questions. So let's go ahead and start with Annie and Pat.
Hi, this is Annie. Hi, Annie. Annie is 8 years old. I got her in 2014, and she was 2 years old. And I said, okay, you know, she won't be too wild. Well, joke's on me. She's very active, and this is my second beagle. My first beagle was more docile. So I figured, docile, no, not this one. But different personality, but I love her. And she definitely is a pal right now because my husband works out of town, so he's not here. I do have an older son who lives with me, but he doesn't bother with me. You know, he stays up in his room. But she's a real pal. She helps me out, and she's definitely spoiled.
Thank you so much, Pat. We love meeting Annie. Thank you.
Thank you.
What about Tucker and Bill? Bill, are you still here?
Hello.
Hi.
Oh, Tucker wanted to bring his toy. And okay. All right. Now you were good before. All right, there he is. Okay. Tucker is a Boston Terrier. He's 7 years old. He's a rescue. You'll notice that he's got one eye, and then the other eye has been taken out a while ago. He's a rescue, and he's totally blind. The other eye doesn't work at all. But he is a special guy. He is really the 6th Boston Terrier that I've had. I was raised with Boston Terriers, and throughout my adulthood and my marriage, we've always had Bostons, and he's the last one. I have a special bond with him because he's blind. He depends on me to direct him sometimes with a leash in areas that he's unfamiliar with. When he's in our home, it's almost like Tucker has sonar. He can find his way around. He doesn't really bump into anything. He's very, very careful about where he goes, with his head down, smelling, of course. But when we go out to go to the potty, Tucker needs a little help to avoid things that he's not familiar with. So we have a special bond because he depends on me and I depend on him for companionship. And he also depends on me to play with him. This is one of his favorite toys that he takes to bed with us every night. And when he wakes up in the morning, he has to have it. So I have to find it for him. Anyway, Tucker is a special boy, and I'm very, very happy to have him. And we're happy to be on Yappy time here.
Thank you, Bill. We love meeting
Sure.
Tucker.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you so much. All right. What about Ruby and Chuck? But Erica has 2 babies to introduce us to.
I do. So I am actually currently unable to move. Chuck is laying on top of me. He decided that the place he would be most comfortable was with his giant head on me. But I am gonna have to move a little bit, I think. Ruby, come here. Come here. This is Ruby. I don't know if you can see her. She has decided to, oh yeah, now they're both right here. So this is Ruby and Chuck. I have had Ruby for actually 2 years, a couple days ago. I got her from a friend of a friend whose dog had puppies and they couldn't keep them. So I got her for free, and she has been the biggest blessing in my life, especially right now being stuck at home, not being able to really do anything. And then Chuck, who is laying down already again, he wandered up to my house when I was in North Carolina a little over a year ago. It had been just left out in the open, and just wandered up to my house, and I guess I was the first person to take him in. And my parents have adopted him, and since I'm at their house, he has not left my side since I've been here. But they have been both a little bit annoying in this time because they're like, yay, she's home. We don't have to wait for her to come back. She's here. But it's also been really great to have them constantly kind of around me. Because then in the moments when I'm like, okay, I need something to do, I can grab Ruby and go for a run with her. You know, she's only 2.5 years old, so she loves going outside and going on runs. Or if I need, a hug, I can just lay on Chuck pretty much, and he'll just let me hold him, and be a real sweet baby. So
Great. Thank you, Erica, for introducing us to Ruby and Chuck. They're adorable.
thank you.
All right. Lily and Courtney.
Hi everyone, this is Lily. She is a Chihuahua dachshund, I think. as well. And she also only has one eye. I adopted her when she was 9 months, and she's now almost 10, actually, even though she doesn't really look like it. And she's been really great because I actually live alone. So it's like I have a roommate and a little pal. Whenever I'm doing school or work now, I get to do it with her right by me. So it's really great.
Awesome. Thank you, Courtney, for introducing us to Lily. All right, Cammie and Jackie.
Hi.
Hi.
Okay. Hi, everyone. This is Cammie. She is also a rescue from a Pointer Rescue Group. And I adopted her 2 years ago, and she's been my companion. I can't even go into details as to what a friend she's been. Now she decides she wants to scratch. But during COVID, she's helping me get out of the house while I'm furloughed. We go on long 3 miles, sometimes 4-mile walks early in the morning. And I think that keeps my head in the game when I could easily just lay on the couch and do nothing besides feeling sorry for myself. So she's my girlfriend. And I also have a cat. I have Dexter, but he doesn't like being next to her. So,
Understandable.
yeah, he doesn't like her, but they get along for the most part. But the most important thing is that she has been my companion for the last 2 years since I adopted her. And now she's my personal trainer. We walk for miles.
That's great. Thank you so much, Jackie.
Thank you.
All right, Buddy and Nicole.
Yeah.
Hi.
Hi.
This is Buddy. Can you see him?
I think your screen might have frozen,
Oh. Let me
or at least on my end. It might catch up for other people.
let me stop it and start again. Can you see it? So
We hear Buddy. Oh, there, yeah, we see him.
Okay, so this is Buddy.
Oh, we can't hear you. I think there's some connectivity stuff.
Routine going with all his walks and just being there should I need help, or if I'm stressed out I can give him a hug and things like that. So he's great to have around, especially times like this.
Thank you, Nicole. Buddy's adorable.
Thank you.
All right, Nala and Ixies.
Hi.
Hi.
So this is Nala. She's 7 years old. I didn't actually have her as a puppy. I got her when she was about a year old. They were gonna send her to the pound, but my parents decided to keep her, in which I was really happy about. She's very loving. I'm giving her a treat because if not, she's very camera shy. Yeah, she's very loving and she loves scratches. She always gives me the paw to keep giving her scratches. During this time, I've noticed that we've gotten really close just because we're spending a lot more time. Usually I'm always on the go, either if it's for school or if it's for work. So I'll see her for a few minutes and then I'll see her like kind of like sad. But now I see that she's so happy because everyone's home. And I'm also been taking her for walks. And she's a puller, so she pulls. And she's a big dog. She weighs 100 pounds. Not that I'm proud to say that. But she's a really loving dog. And during these times, she's like made it, easier to deal with these stressful times. So this is Nala.
Thank you so much. It's so nice to meet Nala. Thank you. All right, I believe that is everyone that we had planned. I will check the chat. I briefly checked it. I don't think there are any questions that were not already answered by Dr. Perez. So I think we're good to go on that. I want to make sure to just let everyone know my email address. I will actually type it into the chat because I did move the slide too soon. If anyone has any questions or needs any resources, please don't hesitate to reach out to me. I have another slide with some resources as well to share with all of you. Just provide some resources from SAMHSA, which is the Substance Abuse Mental Health Services Administration, more resources through 211, information from the CDC, just some resources, not animal specific, just COVID-19 specific. But I'm really glad that we all had the opportunity to be able to talk about the human-animal bond a little bit today, as well as meet many animals. And I appreciate all of your time and attention. Thank you so much.
So thank you for this very informative session, Dr. Robino. I have one question for you right off the bat. Sometimes the public might not realize the value of animal-assisted therapy. What's your opinion on this?
About the public understanding the value of animal-assisted therapy?
Yes.
I think some of that has to do with cultural notions, and not all cultures find the human-animal bond to be something that we have now come to value so strongly. It wasn't that long ago. I grew up with 2 outside dogs. They only came inside during severe storms, and now some people still do that also culturally, but a lot of us, again, are sleeping with our pets. I think that if we think about animal-assisted therapy, it's the same idea. There's an evolution that has to eventually come. And the field of animal-assisted therapy is burgeoning. In some ways, that's a positive thing. In other ways, it's concerning because it's receiving the training that they would need to receive to be able to partner with an animal, but that's also another webinar. I think that the field can do well to begin shifting and accepting creative interventions overall. So I think that that is not only reflective of potential culturally embedded thoughts about animals, but I also think that there might be a misunderstanding and acceptance of creative interventions. We tend to think of needing to do more structured, a little more prescribed type of interventions. And without knowing what animal-assisted therapy is, people probably think you just bring an animal into the room, it lays at your feet, and then it's over. And it's more than that, which is part of one of the things I like doing, is helping people understand it's more than that.
So as we're closing up, we can allow more dogs online. So if everybody could just put on their camera, show their pets. I'm going to take a screenshot. Bring all the dogs out.
I'll grab one of mine. Joe. We're going to crash Zoom.
It's okay. I've got lots of capacity. All right, we're going to take a picture now. Dr. Perro.
Oh my goodness. I feel bad. I can't have all of mine.
All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and take pictures, and this is a dog happy hour, a yappy hour.
This has to be the cutest thing I've ever seen.
All right, all the doggies wave. Very nice. Everybody looks good. And it's so quiet. It's great. I know everybody wanted to be interviewed. Just a note as we close up our program, just want to let you know that if you have any questions or concerns, we are available for you, College of Psychology. NSU, you could email psychology@nova.edu. Thank you so much for coming on with your pets. Dr. Robino, any parting words as we're saying goodbye to our dogs? Woof.
Woof, and be safe, be healthy, and hold your pups close.
And so, you know, in my language, if you use the term woof, that's quite a compliment. That's showing excitement. And so keep that in mind in case you see me in the hallways or in the streets.
And you bark at us.
Is a compliment. So again, thank you so much for your presentation. Thank you all for joining us with the College of Psychology. Our web address is psychology@nova.edu, and we're proud to offer bachelor's, master's, and doctoral programs in the field of psychology and counseling. We also have clinics available, and please keep your pets close. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Bye-bye, everyone. Woof, woof.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye. Woof.
Bye. Say bye.